All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second steering committee meeting of the City of Marietta's 2022 Comprehensive Plan Update. As you already know, my name is Molly Bogle. I am with the Atlanta Regional Commission. Bonnie Lapwood is here with me today, and we are here to assist your local planning staff in developing this update. Courtney, did you want to say any words, or do you want me to just jump right on in?
I'm good. Just thank you everybody for participating again. And yeah, I think it's fine just to go ahead and get started, Molly.
All right, great.
Yeah.
All right, so today we're gonna recap the issues and opportunities discussion we had at our last meeting, go over a few more data trends. Then we're going to jump into sort of the meat of today's discussion, the vision and goals, and then we'll talk next steps at the very end. As a reminder, throughout today's discussion, you can throw comments and questions in the chat. I'll always be monitoring that. But I encourage you, if you are comfortable, to turn your cameras on throughout today's meeting and just unmute yourself and jump in. Anytime you have a question, this is informal. You don't need to raise your hand. You can just jump in with any question or comment at any time. I'll also stop pretty often and prompt you with questions and give you time to jump in as well. All right, so at our last meeting, we talked about the needs and opportunities of the City of Marietta. And we asked that with questions about Marietta's assets and challenges. And the top three for each of those are here. So the top three assets were the sense of community, the square or your downtown area, and Marietta's sort of small town feel or charm. The challenges were the perception of the school system, or I guess I should say negative perception of the school system, housing affordability, and walkability, or this sort of car-oriented nature. And I will say that we have had 98, almost 100 responses or respondees to our survey, which is fantastic. We're doing really great on that. And a lot of the responses that we have received for these assets and challenges really line up with these same ideas that you all have brought up here. The only one I would say that it wasn't brought up was this negative perception of the school system. It's the only one that didn't really come up in discussion through the survey. So I'm really glad it's something that we could bring up here in this discussion. That's always why it's really good for us to have multiple opportunities and different groups that we have these conversations with, because different groups are going to bring up these different sorts of issues and opportunities. So open it up for any discussion, anything you feel like I missed. Obviously, at the end of this process, and for you all to have as a resource, but also for the Department of Community Affairs to see, there's going to be the list of all of these things that you listed, that the community listed through the survey, through our public engagement meeting in March. But what we'll do as part of the document itself is we're going to prioritize those. We're going to pick those top 3 to 5 assets and challenges, because those are going to be really our focus. So I really wanted to show you what came to the surface during our discussion. Any comments, thoughts, questions?
Quick question. From the survey results you have so far, you said the school perception wasn't there. What was the other one that we make at the top 3 of the current survey results, or do you have that yet?
For challenges? So affordable housing, walkability, car sort of oriented, and I would say, I'm trying to remember now, I read it late last night. I want to say it had to do with future growth and sort of being, feeling as if there was this sort of, maybe this pull between wanting to keep this small town feel and charm, but also wanting to grow into the future, and feeling like maybe Marietta didn't know how to do both. And so feeling like maybe that, that you all were being held back a little bit. So I think that future growth was maybe that final challenge, which you all brought up as a challenge as well, but I think that rose to the surface a little bit more through the survey. Anyone else? If not, we will jump on into the data trends. All right. So between 2010 and 2019, Marietta's racial makeup experienced very few notable changes. The proportion of Black residents hovered around 30%, with white residents continuing to account for about 55% of the city's population. In addition, between 2010 and 2020, decennial censuses, Marietta's population remained about 20% Hispanics and Latinx. Marietta's racial composition is quite similar to that of the 11-county metro area as a whole. However, while the Atlanta region is roughly 12% Hispanic, Marietta's population, as I mentioned, is roughly 20% Hispanic. Any questions? With that, again, anything that might seem not quite right, anything that you want to see more of when it comes to these demographic trends? If not, we'll move on to housing trends.
Hello, this is Carlisle. I have a question.
Yeah.
What about the breakup in the districts? Is there any way to show the breakup in the 7 districts or wards that we have?
Yeah, let me look into that. So as I mentioned to you, we have people that we work with within our team to do this data. So I am not the data guru within our team. I do know that we can get down to census tract, and I'm not sure if your districts are larger than that or smaller than that. So I'll look into that for you. Let's see. So you're just interested specifically on racial composition by district, correct?
Yes.
All right. Anyone else?
I assume you're going to do like age and wealth and things like income.
Yes, yeah. I'm actually just sort of peppering in different trends for you at each meeting. So we covered the age at the last meeting. I believe it was mid-30s. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I want to say it was in the 35, 36 range for median age. And we will go over more income trends actually at our next meeting.
Larry Wills here. Can we go back to assets?
Yes. There you go.
Can we add the national park, Kennesaw Mountain National Park, to assets?
Absolutely.
And open space. I think one of the most important assets of the city of Marietta is its open space right now, which is rapidly diminishing.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, these were sort of the top 3 that bubbled to the surface at our discussion. Bonnie is here with us. She's a colleague of mine. She's taking notes, so she will add those to the notes that we have for today. We'll be sure to include those in the list of assets and challenges that you all have given us. So I appreciate that, absolutely. And that was something that was mentioned at our previous meeting as well.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
And challenges, I think, making Marietta a sustainable city government in terms of environmental challenges.
And
That's
so
it.
you mean a sustainable, the government itself? Do you mean their buildings more sustainable, environmentally sustainable? Do you mean their policies more sustainable? What are you specifically talking about?
Creating a sustainable, natural, and cultural environment. Protecting open space.
Okay.
Concerned about air pollution, which is increasing, things like that.
Okay, great.
Maintaining quality of life.
Great.
It's all goes into sustainability and sustaining the environment and sustaining the cultural environment also.
I appreciate you being specific about that, because I think, sustainability is a key, hot topic and is something that we want to talk about, but I think it's important to be specific about what we mean by sustainability.
Well, making the environment more a major focus of city government, you can a lot of cities now are considering the natural environment as a part of their infrastructure
Mhm.
and actually putting a price on infrastructure like green belts and streams and things
Mhm.
like that. Marietta totally ignores that aspect of city government.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for that. All right, we're going to go on to the housing trends, and actually we are going to have some income trends in just a moment as well, but we'll have more at the next meeting. I know we had a question about that when we were covering the demographic trends. So housing trends, Marietta's tenure and occupancy rates have remained relatively steady with a slight increase in rental rates from 48% in 2010 to 53% in 2020, and a slight reduction in vacancy rates from 13% in 2010 to 10% in 2019. According to ACS data, nearly half of Marietta's housing stock, or 41%, is single family, while the remainder is relatively evenly divided between missing middle, small and mid-sized multifamily, and large multifamily. HUD State of Cities Data Systems data supports this breakdown, indicating the issuance of 837 building permits for single-family dwellings in 2020 and 2021. However, during the same time period, only 6 permits were issued for buildings with 2 to 4 units, and 22 permits were issued for buildings with 5 or more units. Any questions here for me?
What does missing middle mean?
Yeah, so missing middle housing are going to be those the townhomes, so attached dwelling units. I'm trying to think of some of the other, so small and mid-sized multifamily is going to be your 2 to 4 unit, duplex and quadplex. Missing middle is going to be your townhomes. And I actually have a definition. I don't know if Bonnie, you could pull up the exact definition for me out of our folder in the data and demographics interim deliverable. There's a chart there for us, and she can pull that up and tell us exactly the exact definition that was given to us by our research team.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Jocelyn Kent. Where you have other housing types, does that include apartment complexes?
So no, all of the multifamily are going to be apartment complexes. Other housing types, I believe that includes RVs. That includes, I'm blanking.
What about trailers?
Trailers, thank you. Yes, it's going to include trailers, RVs, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bonnie, were you able to pull that document up and get to that chart?
Yes, I do have it pulled up.
Okay, there's a chart that's got the definitions for each of those. You'll just scroll down and you'll finally see it.
I've got housing types. Yes, okay, so the breakdown is for missing middle, 1 unit attached, meaning townhomes, 2 units, and 3 to 4 units. So that's all that makes up that section.
Okay, so I apologize. The small and mid-size don't include duplexes. The missing middle are the duplexes and the 3 units. Is that correct? 2 to 3 units?
Yes, it doesn't include townhomes, 1 unit attached, and then the 2 to 4 unit small multi-unit.
Okay, so missing middle are those townhomes, and then your duplexes and quadplexes. Small and mid-sized multifamily are going to be a little bit bigger, and then large multifamily, I think, is that 20 plus apartment complexes.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Can you tie this to square footage some way? The houses and the townhomes and everything seem to be getting smaller in square footage, and the townhomes are so close together, you might as well call them condominiums.
Well,
They're only
townhomes
separate.
by definition have shared walls. So, that's why they are so close together. But we can look into see if there's any sort of data we can pull about square footage and maybe the change in square footage over time. Is that what you're interested in, to see maybe if there's been an increase in square footage over time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the proximity of these townhomes to each other, like some of them are 5 to 8 feet apart. They're almost like condominiums. They just don't have a common wall.
So you mean the actual blocks of townhomes are very close together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, understood.
Correct.
Okay.
Hey, Molly, one other question. Is there any way to tie this into affordability, an affordability index of some kind? Was that more difficult just because of the?
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about what you're wanting to find out.
Well, you're showing four to five different housing types. And out of that, I'd be curious to know which ones tend to be more affordable or providing affordability for a larger group of the population. I have my thoughts on what it is, but it would be nice to be able to say, for sure that maybe it hits all four of them, all the categories, but maybe not.
All right, I'll see what we can do about that. Yeah. All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to move us along because we have a lot of vision and goals to get through. So, but I so appreciate all of your comments. Please keep them coming. I'm going to keep us moving as well. So, economic trends, and this is some of those, the income that someone had mentioned an interest in. So Marietta's median household income has risen by 27% from $45,233 in 2010 to $57,452 in 2019. By comparison, the median household income of Cobb County was $79,601 in 2019. Incomes are relatively evenly distributed between all income brackets. The largest percentage of 18% makes between $50,000 and $74,999. Any questions there for me? Again, anything that maybe doesn't sound quite right or you want to know more information about?
Hey, Molly, this is Carlisle. Is that income based on individual or household?
It's household income.
Okay.
Yep. All right, we're going to move on to transportation trends. Almost 22,000 residents commute outside the city for work, primarily southeast toward Atlanta, while over 3,500 residents live and work in the city. 83% of Marietta's residents use a car to get to work each day. The vast majority of those drive alone, while about 8% carpool. 2% of residents use public transportation and 8% work from home. Now remember, this doesn't take into account the pandemic. The highest percentage of residents, or 34%, travel between 15 and 29 minutes to get to work. And I wanted to show you this. This is a heat map showing you where residents of Marietta are working. So you can see the majority of those people are moving southeast and primarily toward Atlanta. Wasn't able to capture Atlanta there in that picture, but the majority of people are moving southeast. Any questions for me?
Can you highlight the number of people living in Marietta that work around Cumberland Mall or that area down there? It's essentially a central city business district, and it seems like the darker the blue areas, the higher
Yes.
the areas where employment attracts people to Marietta. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
So is that dark blue area there on, you just highlighted it. Is that Cumberland and the stadium in that whole area there?
That is, yep.
Do you have an actual number of people who work in that corridor? from
Who
Marietta?
are from Marietta. I don't. I can see if we can get that number, though that might be difficult. That might be a little too specific, but I'll absolutely ask if we can get that
Okay.
number for you.
And then there's the other over there, the dark spot, that's perimeter,
Yeah.
which is another satellite CBD, I think.
Mhm.
And then the dark spot down in the middle, that's downtown Atlanta,
So this is not downtown Atlanta. This is Buckhead.
Buckhead. Okay. So the three biggest areas are Cumberland, perimeter, and somewhere down around Buckhead. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
that's what's shown on this map. I'm assuming there's a big blue dot closer into downtown Atlanta.
There is. Well, and he's not wrong. It is all moving southeast. Cumberland is one of those. Buckhead is one of those. Atlanta is one of those. So yeah. But we can absolutely look into those numbers to see if they have any specifics about those.
And as for within the city itself, it looks like Kennestone and the square area seem to be the other big ones within the city.
Yeah.
And this only accounts for the city's nighttime population where they go during the day. Doesn't account for where people come into Marietta from where they work as well.
That's correct. We have another heat map that I'll show you next time that actually shows you where the employees who are coming in during the day, where they live. So you can kind of see where you're drawing from.
And then what about the town center area? Is that hidden behind the transportation trends title?
Yes, up here.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm assuming there might be a. blue
There is. You
something
can
there.
kind of see how it's
Right.
grading out. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a dark blue spot there. Yep. All right. So like I said,
Why are you saying the employment opportunities are moving to the southeast?
I'm saying that the majority
Is that a
of
trend?
individuals who live in Marietta are traveling to the southeast to get to work currently.
But it looks like they're already also traveling to the northwest.
That is correct. There are a number of people traveling to the northwest, just the majority of people are traveling to the southwest. It's
Okay.
just
And you have numbers to back that up?
I've got a graph to back that up. I don't
Okay.
have like hard numbers for you. I've got the graph that was given to me.
Okay, well, what's the graph based on then? If it's not a big number?
Well, I mean, it's based on numbers that Bonnie, if you could look at the data source for those maps, those heat maps. Like I said, I don't have the hard numbers. Those hard numbers are fed into a system. This is actually one of the few sources where my understanding from our research team is we're not given the hard numbers. We are given the layers and we're given the graphs, but we're not given the hard numbers. So we can use all of that data, but we're not given the hard numbers. Now I can ask for them. That's just not something I was given initially. So.
Well, it seems like you would have to know that to do your transportation projections and determine where the transportation funding needs to go.
Yeah, the data comes from the Census Bureau through their longitudinal employer household dynamics program. So this is Census Bureau data that collects, large numbers of origins and destinations, and then aggregates it into the map that Molly showed you.
Okay, but the problem I see is Cumberland receives a tremendous amount of transportation funding. What seems like the majority of it, when actually it may be not benefiting Marietta at all to develop links between those downtown Marietta and Cumberland.
Hey, Larry, just to try to refocus the conversation a little bit, we're trying to get back to just what the city of Marietta's strategic plan will be. I think maybe ARC has other opportunities for, kind of input into their transportation planning. But right now we're just trying to get back to setting the landscape for what Marietta is, and then trying to get input from the committee members as to what some of these items are.
Okay.
All right. So let's move on to those vision and goals. We'll absolutely take a look at some of those transportation numbers for you and see if we can't get some specifics. But like I mentioned, we've got a lot of vision and goals to get to. Your vision and goals section is broken up into 9 vision statements with multiple goals within each of those statements, okay? Each of those speak to a specific topic. So it might be housing, it might be economic development. So we're going to look at each of those today. I want to remind you all that this is an update. So we're going to use this as a basis from which we're going to, make modifications. We're going to make changes. We can wordsmith some things. We can add goals. We can remove goals if they're no longer relevant. But we aren't going to start from scratch. So I just want to make that clear. One thing I want to make you aware of is sort of how I'm thinking about these when we're going through here as I make some suggestions for you. So these vision statements can be really broad and they can have some squishy language, but these goal statements should be pretty specific. They should have one topic per goal or policy statement, okay? So some of these that I've noticed have a little bit more language that I think we can kind of cull out a little bit. And in general, we want to keep it kind of general, not too terribly general, but we do want to make it general enough that it can apply to multiple areas of the city. And then when we get into what's called our short-term work program, which I mentioned at the beginning at our first meeting, which is where we have our checklist of what we're going to do. That's where we get really specific about specific when it comes to pursue appropriate signage throughout the city. That's where we're going to get to specific intersections, specific types of signs. This is going to be a little bit more general. Pursue appropriate signage throughout the city. That's a perfect example of what a goal statement should look like. So I just want you to be aware of sort of where my head is when we're looking through these, but I want you to be thinking about what still resonates. What doesn't feel appropriate anymore? It's been 5 years. Cities change over time. So I want us to jump in. I want us to keep moving forward because we have a lot to get through. But I do want us to take time on these as well. So let's get started.
One
Vision.
Molly's really quickly. I think Carlisle Kent got bumped out for some reason. Just as a heads up, could someone help with that?
Say that one more time. Who got what?
Councilmember Kent, I think, got bumped out of the Zoom meeting. I think he needs help getting back in.
Okay, let's see. Bonnie, is that something you could help with?
Yes, I'll send him an email.
Okay, thank you. All right, so vision statement number 1. Marietta is a livable city and a great metropolitan area. We are dedicated to being a clean city with trees, green spaces, and parks. Goals: pursue appropriate signage throughout the city, establish aesthetically pleasing roads and gateways, strive for code compliance and improving the appearance of the city, and establish good and continuous tree coverage and canopy, partnering with the Marietta tree keepers when possible. Now, some of these vision and goals get a lot longer, so I'm not going to read all of them, but I wanted to read this one out and open it up for conversation for you. And I'm going to mark it up as we go. So start sharing with me your thoughts. Again, what works, what doesn't work. We can wordsmith, we can add things, we can take things out. Let me know what you think.
Is there another vision about the green spaces and parks? Because it seems a little bit of a mixed bag in this vision to me. Metropolitan area, trees, green spaces, parks. I think there's so much to unpack with trees, green spaces, and parks. We'd probably want to work on as a city.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to think, and I just wish I had the document here with me. I keep everything digitally. So let's see. Can you all still see the screen just fine? Are you seeing anything pop up in front of you right now?
No,
You can
it's
see the
same
PowerPoint
screen.
slides.
Perfect. Well, then I'm doing it right. So let me check that for you right quick. I don't believe there is, and that's why I want to make sure. I don't recall there being one. But anyone else, any other thoughts while I pull this
Yeah,
up?
what about, and maybe it's a different vision, but walkability, bike trails, those kinds of things. Is that in
So-
this one, or is that part of something else?
Yeah, so actually walkability, different types of trails, multimodal corridors, that is in another,
Okay.
in another vision statement.
Two things. One, the screen has now changed, so we can see your screen going through the
Okay.
2017 update. Second, goal 1 and goal 4 both mention stuff about green spaces and parks. So I think it's probably to kind of tied across multiple, tied across multiple visions.
So they're both sort of, I think, more about aesthetics and less about the conservation of natural resources, if I'm not mistaken. And if that's what you were sort of getting at. All right, let me pull that.
Just from a top, like a overall starting to the thing, the first goal is pursue appropriate signage throughout the city. Like, it seems kind of like a weak one to like, because vision 1 is your big idea, right?
Yeah,
I would think. So that to me just feels kind of like a let the air out of the balloon. So I for me, it's like bigger picture, maybe first, and like the metropolitan, how you fit in, you know, how you see yourself in the midst of the Atlanta region or something like that. I don't know.
yeah, absolutely. And let's actually,
My question is, what is appropriate signage? What are you really talking about here?
well, the details of that really get into the short-term work program. So can you see this this document here?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to pull this up because I think there's a maybe a more, let's see. I think that there are a lot of these that might be a little bit more something about this. We are a city of mixed uses. We are a dynamic business center. You know, might be more appropriate than this. Although I think this first statement is a great opening statement because it kind of situates yourself in the metro area. So maybe it just needs to, some of the language after that needs to be changed a little bit. Is that what you're thinking maybe?
If you're asking me, I can't hardly read it, but it seems like the city of Marietta has too many signs right now, and they're really visually distracting.
No, I was talking.
I don't know what kind of signage you're talking about, actually.
No, I was talking to the individual who mentioned that that first goal might be really important to kind of situate Marietta as a metropolitan, you know, within the metropolitan area and kind of be this, you know, maybe a kind of grand vision statement to really situate people and really set the tone for the rest of the vision and goals. I agree with that. So do we want to talk through what I'm gonna take us to?
Well, is there anything that we feel differentiates us from other communities in Metro Atlanta? Something that we're really proud of, something that that we feel we need to promote even more than others?
I think it's the authenticity of our downtown, because Smyrna, I mean, recently in the paper, they're doing pretty progressive things with their transportation, for example, but you know, they're a manufactured place, kind of. We are a historic, authentic community. So I think that sets us apart.
And so I like it. I think maybe historical needs to be into this
I think
vision.
we may need to look at, I think vision 2 or vision 3, I can't remember. One of the other ones speaks a little more to that to
Okay.
what they're saying, I think. So we
Okay.
may need to just look at shuffling those potentially.
Okay.
Yeah, Vision
Um,
4 talks about the Marietta look, and that kind of hits on the historic small town feel that we had been talking about at the last meeting.
So let's look at maybe combining, sorry about this. Okay. So let's look at, I think that you could combine this first sentence, Marietta is a livable city in a great metropolitan area, and then keep going with, we are a city of mixed uses and diverse urban design. We have a well-defined, vibrant downtown and neighborhoods that mix residents, parks, green spaces, and business. And I think that could be a really strong opening.
I
What is-
agree. I agree, because the first part of Vision 1 that you just plucked out doesn't actually tie to the second half really of that statement.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of does, but not really. So I think pulling them apart is a good way to capture something a little more bold.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of somewhere where we could put those, some of these other establishing pleasing roadways and gateways, code compliance and tree coverage. Mike could go actually here where the other multimodal systems are going. I think maybe those could go there. Those goals could be put in here. I apologize everyone for going back to this, and let's, I'm gonna put it on so y'all can see it maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, there we go. Just switching gears here. I think maybe this is a little bit easier for us to kind of bounce around on this document as opposed to my PowerPoint. But what I was saying is I think the goals from vision number 1, where it's about street trees and code enforcement and that sort of thing, might be more appropriate here. We can move those, at least the things that have to do with the roadways, because this is very much transportation focused here. So I think those could be moved there because we don't want to leave those out if we still think those are relevant. So with all of that being said, we're going to move the first statement of number 1 to actually start number 4, and we're going to move this whole thing to number 1, and that's going to be our first. So with that in mind, let's actually start with number 4, and let's look here with the sorry.
Can we add, we are a historic city of mixed uses. I think we need to put historic somewhere in this.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm just going to start making some notes here. We are a historic. I am.
History stuff's done in number 2 as well. So
Okay.
it's kind of, I think the We Are a City of Mixed Use is kind of gets that, because it gets with our livable urban stuff. And then we have number 2 talking about dynamic business center and honoring past, preserve history, and welcome future. So I think that kind of covers it there. Looking at
Which
kind
I
of how
actually
those
think
two
is
interact.
I actually think that is a little confusing because I think this is very much economic development focused for the most part. And I think the preservation, some of the preservation, and Courtney, if you want to jump in at any point, let me know. I think a few of these preservation goals could actually be pulled out and put somewhere else, because for the majority of it, I actually think there's only one statement that really speaks to 2 statements, this while strengthening viable neighborhoods and this preserving historically significant resources really seem to be the only two things that speak really to sort of preservation of the historic resources.
Yeah.
The other seems very much economic development focused to me. Anyone's thoughts on that?
Well,
I
I think,
agree.
if I understand what you're saying, I think historical preservation should stand alone somewhere, but if I'm confused a little bit. If maybe that's what it is, but it should be a standalone item, I think. If you're selling Marietta as a historic, antique downtown area or whatever you said earlier.
Well, I think that we were selling Marietta was a livable city within the great metropolitan area. And I think the
Yes.
historical nature preservation
Is part
helps
and parcel
make
of
it a
that.
livable city.
Yeah. I think looking at preservation as this sort of standalone item outside of good urban design is sort of an older way of looking at preservation. And I think thinking of it as how we look forward to growth, how the future of good growth and good urban design is how we really want to sort of place preservation.
Yeah.
So I like it in 4, if that is where the rest of the committee wants to take that. And I would be happy to kind of play around with pulling some of the preservation out of 2 and kind of focusing that in the economic development realm, and having 4 be where that preservation is focused.
Mhm. Yes, from my perspective, this is Jocelyn.
Mhm.
Preservation, historic preservation is, from my perspective, is preservation of historical sites and
Mhm.
historical aspects of architectural design,
Mhm.
because obviously in a modern day society, you want to be progressive and move forward. But that historical preservation historically has been related to architectural design
Yeah.
and emphasis in buildings.
Yes, it
Structures.
has been. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's about maintaining that architecture, as you said, while still being able to use it as we need to use it now, right? And it's not just about preservation of a site, but it's also about preservation of a community, of a character, of a history, of a story. And that's what you all talk about so much, is about that Marietta isn't this, and a lot of the survey results that we have received is that, Marietta actually has a history. It's not one of these cities that sort of popped up out of the ground, 10, 15 years ago. It has a history, it has a story, and we're all part of this story. And we want to make sure that we honor that and that we preserve that story. And buildings are part of that as well. And I think that those buildings are part of that urban design that you want to maintain. So absolutely. So I will work on that. I think and again, Bonnie's taking notes. We're going to pull these goals and put them down. Sorry, goals from number 1 are going to be put down into vision number 6. Vision number 4 is actually going to become vision number 1, with the leading statement of vision number 1 remaining. And we are going to pull out the preservation statements from vision 2 and put them into our new vision statement 1. Does that all sound like we're going in the right direction?
One thing.
Yeah.
I got a feeling that some of this stuff in 1 probably does need to shift over to 4 if that's going to become the new number 1.
Okay.
Because not all of this is talking about transportation.
Yep.
So,
code compliance is the and signage. Yeah.
And then also there's still the tree covered canopy, because that's not just roads as well. That's even in just an example with the tree keepers this past weekend, we were over at the city club doing a tree planting along the city golf course. And it's not just roadways.
You're right. So I think we're actually going to be losing a vision statement, which I think is totally fine. I think what we can do is somehow merge 1 and 4 together. I think we'll pull out goal statement number 2 and put that in 6. And then we'll take 1, 3, and 4 and put that in our new vision statement 1. And we will take some of this language. I do think we want to make sure that this vision statement doesn't get too terribly long, but I think we can work with it, and I will work with the project management team to make sure that it's that it works together. But I really like the direction we're taking this.
And still keeping the Marietta look. Okay, yeah. And because I also know with some of this historic stuff, it's because we're a kind of an eclectic city. It's a mix of new and old, as long as it's still good quality.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and I think that is, and that also is reflective here as well about new quality development within this section is here. So.
Okay.
Anything else?
Where would reducing the carbon footprint or concern about the carbon footprint for the city come into this?
So we've got vision number 2 speaks specifically to environmentally friendly industry. But reduction totally of the carbon footprint. There isn't anything currently. Let's see, and there isn't a vision that speaks directly to natural resources only. So that could be something that
Shouldn't that be a go, reducing or maintaining, not increasing the carbon footprint at least?
That's absolutely something the committee can discuss if that's something that you all feel is appropriate to put in here and where you think it would be appropriate to go. What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, was that a question?
Yes, for the committee, absolutely. If there are, if that's a goal that they would like to include in here and where they think it might be a good fit. I think the most obvious place, if we're not creating a new vision, would be under number 2, because there is already a mention of environmentally friendly industry.
I think that's kind of, and this is strictly my opinion, but I think that's a little bit of a loaded goal to have in there without understanding what that might actually mean to some of these other goals and how it would impact some of the economic development pieces or other things. Because if it's read off the cuff without somebody who's been involved in the conversation, it could read as something to be not friendly to a certain type of industry or business.
Yep.
I don't know that blanket goal statement could, I think we might need to modify that a little, or at least make it wordsmith somewhere where it fits into the rest of how these goals are laid out.
And Molly, vision statement number 9 talks about healthy and safe environment. And so, I mean, the healthy part could be taken in a number of different directions.
Yeah.
But there's a few goals under there that I think could possibly cover that in a more broader term.
Absolutely, especially with the expansion of conservation of areas, that could be supporting the establishment of facilities and programs that enable healthy lifestyles. And that could be the same, I think, could be said for establishing some sort of program or policy about reduction of carbon emissions, could be under that as well. And it is, again, I mentioned this idea that goal statements should not be overly specific. That is where your policy statements come in. If that is, something that the city is interested, that is where the policy statement comes in. Conserve 5 acres of land or something like that would come into that policy statement. That would not go here in these goal statements. That is just too specific for a goal statement. Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up, Courtney.
Yeah, if I can just add, this is Craig again.
Yeah.
In that number 9, even that first goal, build relationships with all facets of the community to promote safety and healthy living, you can introduce sustainability in that same statement. So build relationships with all facets of the community to promote safety, sustainability, and healthy living. And
Great.
that might tie some of that into that.
So I'm going to go back to my slides because this is where I like to annotate right on the slide. So when we start to actually bring in specific words, we want to. So to promote, what if we say to promote safe, sustainable, and healthy living?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Okay.
No, that's great.
I'd actually say keep the word promote safety and sustainable and healthy living, because safety might include more than just the living aspect of it as well.
Okay, wonderful. Like that.
Yeah, because it's like safety is the first one, then sustainable and healthy living is kind of the other one, or something like that.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to draw a line through. All right. I know we're kind of jumping around here, and I know we've made some like big changes that I'll go back and finesse a little bit, but you know, I want to see if there are any sort of little changes. Now we've got 3 minutes before I want to go to next steps and get you out on time. Is there anything else, little changes that we want to make? Again, always available via email. If you have any other comments that we didn't get to today, feel free to email me. You know, if you've hand drawn on it, take pictures, PDF it, and send it to me. Happy to look at that. I know we only have a short amount of time, and I always want to take more time, but I also want to be respectful of your time. So I'll stop talking. We've got 2 more minutes. Anything else that you want me to kind of wordsmith, change around things, add something?
2 things. One, I think it was 5 or something along those lines. I think there was a goal about the Franklin Road apartments and whatnot. I'm not, is that most of our work on Franklin Road at this point is done, I believe, correct, Daniel, or anyone else in economic development with regard to like buying up the apartments and whatnot?
Yeah, I wouldn't envision that the city would acquire anymore. That's right.
So just remove Franklin Gateway from this list here.
Not the revitalization part. I'm trying to remember where exactly that was that I saw it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It was a 2 in actually, 2 in that.
You said it was in number 2, vision number 2?
No. It's in goal. It's in vision 5.
Gotcha.
It was number 2 in the thing. Continue to convert select
Gotcha.
parcels of interior multifamily housing located on Franklin
So
Road
just
into new
remove this
developments.
altogether?
I think we've kind of about. I'm not sure how much more work is going to be done on that. Daniel, can you help me with that?
Yeah, I would say that's a very reasonable thing to strike, and there may be some modification on it based on the direction of council. If there's other kinds of, I guess, real estate efforts that council would like to take in those in that corridor, but certainly don't envision that statement as it's written being a
Great. All right, and you said there was something else?
Yeah, number 6. There's a term of art used in some of the goals there that don't think, I think it's a little too amorphous to really be using.
Okay.
It's the complete streets in this case, because that can mean a lot of different things to different people.
Okay.
I mean, I think the eventual goal is what we're trying to do is get good safe streets that have good traffic flow while also making sure that we have good pedestrian and bicycle flow, usually using trails is kind of what we've been doing.
Okay.
So I'm just worried about continuing to use the term complete streets.
Understood.
It's a term of art.
Yeah, because I think
streets is a term that GDOT uses, and so I think that's kind of where that came from.
If we're going to use it, it needs to be tied. I think it needs to be tied somewhere, because right now it's a little. It means that term, even if it's what GDOT uses, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Okay. I will highlight
So-
it and I will come back to that and make sure if, there's either a definition for it or that we change that to describe more specifically what it is that Marietta is doing. All right. Anything else? We've got, I'll give you one more minute. One more person. Want to? All right.
Back on Vision 5, I think it said strive for a majority of homes to be owner occupied or something like
Yeah.
that. So I just felt like, I mean, is that 51%? Like, I feel like that's a little not clear.
What is majority? Right.
Yeah. So just a thought.
Any thoughts about what that should say, could say, or do you want me to highlight that and talk to the project management team about it? I think, again, we don't want to put a percentage here. I think that's too specific for a goal. But
This might go back, and Daniel, staff, please help me with this because this is history outside of my term of council. Go back to a point where the city was more renter occupied than owner occupied, and there was concerns about upkeep of the housing stock and whatnot. I believe, Daniel, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. This goes back to, I think, maybe 2000 or 2001, when these visions kind of were first initiated. And at the time, I think Marietta was 60% rental, 40% owner occupied, and maybe nationally it was the exact opposite. And so the goal was to get closer to that 50% mark and have a little bit more balance there.
which it is now, right? It's 47% owner occupied, 53% rental occupied at the moment. So it is much closer to that 50-50 mark. Is that something that we want to take out altogether? Or is
No.
that something you want us to continue to talk about?
I think
Yeah,
it's
please.
the affordability aspect, because I don't know if that's in here somewhere too, but that's come up as a need or a challenge for the
Mhm.
city. So is there something about, because it says this, that first, when we offer housing for people of income, all incomes, et cetera. So since the owner occupied has been kind of satisfied now, should a shift be towards more a vision of affordability?
Right. So
Is
there is this here, multi-tiered housing at various price points. And I want to say that's the only one that speaks specifically to, housing affordability, maybe not specifically to housing affordability, but to price points.
And I do want to clarify something I said earlier on that line. I did say I meant to say I was still in favor of keeping it in as part of the vision, because I still think that's something that needs to go forward, needs to still be in, make sure people understand, hopefully I understand where it came from.
This line, strive for the majority.
No.
Oh,
The vision statement
Keep
about
that in, keep both the line about that in the goals and the vision, just keep that in there, because that's, I still think that's going to be important for future, to keep an idea based on what's happened with the history,
Okay.
why we're trying to reach that point and why you still
Gotcha.
need to keep it up.
And you might could
Understood.
use the word balance that was mentioned instead of majority. Just
I
kind of
like that.
balancing it. And you'll have to wordsmith it somehow, but maybe that might be a better term to use. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the group thinks.
Yeah, I'll wordsmith this, but I like balance because I think we are at that balance point. And I think maintaining that balance is where we're at. So let me say this, we are at 1 o'clock. I want to get you out on time. Again, please email me if there's anything else that we didn't cover that you want to talk about. What I'll do is I will show you sort of the updated version of this at our next meeting. So you can review that one last time and let me know if you have any other thoughts. All right, so very briefly, next steps. Just as a reminder, we are going to have that public meeting in March. Date has not been set, but we are meeting tomorrow to set that date, location. So we will let you know as soon as possible. We will have that third steering committee meeting in April. And we will set that date as well, most likely tomorrow, and send out that calendar invite. Again, I mentioned that we've had fantastic response to the public input survey, but please feel free to continue to put that on your social media sites, to invite friends and family to fill that out. The more the merrier, the more responses we have, the more engagement that we have, the better this plan will be. So I really invite you to make sure that you yourself have filled it out and that you encourage everyone in your lives to do it as well. So with that, I will let you go. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you at our public meeting in March. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.